Hello, hello. We are live. Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Waters. I'm here today with my friend and colleague, Lynn Pottinger. And she is formerly a resident of Central New York, and now she resides in Portland, Maine. And she is a massage therapist and also an emotional freedom technique coach. So I reached out to Lynn to have a conversation with her regarding the emotion of infertility. We all know that we have emotions, but we're not all sure how to change them. And those of you that know me know I like to have techniques that we can do daily, that are easy to do, that we can do in our day to day life. And so, thank you, Lynn, for joining us. And I'm excited to learn more about EFT in particular and what you have to share with us.
Well, thank you, Jennifer, for asking me to join you today. I'm excited to be here and to answer any questions that you might have for me on this topic.
Yes. So, maybe we could start with, can you explain what is EFT?
Okay, so EFT is an acronym, of course, that stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. And it's commonly referred to as EFT tapping because you're tapping on acupressure points. And there are a series of points, and in my practice, I add a few different points. I veer off from the traditional, which I believe is just fine. As you go along in your profession, you adapt and you find things that just work better. So I find that, just working intuitively with the tapping is really nice, but you can also definitely follow, the more traditional protocol,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which includes, I think there are like 9 different points.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think.
So
Mhm.
what you're doing is you're moving energy through tapping on these points. You're moving life force energy, and that gets stuck in the energy meridians. Exactly. Yep. And affects, not only our emotional well-being and our ability to like regulate emotion, but it affects our health. So, like, for example, if you're tapping on the bladder point, which is right at the start of the eyebrow, you're affecting the bladder, the health of the bladder. So, it's been explained that when you tap, you're actually, turning on a switch, allowing for energy or, electricity or however you want to, imagine it. You're allowing for the flow, the free flow of that energy. And so EFT is commonly used for stress, general stress, acute stress, and just, you know, just calming the nervous system, calming the mind. It really has a powerful effect on your brain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's say somebody comes in at CNY Fertility. We see all kinds of challenges, but the thing that I'm most connected to in the emotional realm is recurring pregnancy loss. There's a lot of grief and I would say fear. The sadness of the loss, and then fear of going forward because people obviously don't
Mhm.
want to have this experience again. So, what would you do with a woman or a couple in that situation?
Oh, well, first, I would, we would talk a little bit about like what's happening, like what is the most charged emotion that they're experiencing at the moment. Um, and so, based on that information, we would go forward and really pinpoint what the exact emotion is, the source of the emotion, and then we would pretty much just identify how we want to, address it through tapping.
So
And
wouldn't I hold on? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I always think of emotions all having the same source. What do you mean by the source of the emotion? You mean the cause or?
the event,
Oh, okay. The event.
the defining event.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, say, for example, there was a miscarriage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the emotion is sadness, like extreme grief, sadness.
Mm-hmm.
So, I also do not just tapping, but I do some other forms of what are considered energy, interventions that are somatic or body centered in nature.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on the degree of the shock of the event, which is basically anything that's sudden and alarming, we would I would apply some energy interventions or some body holds. There's a technique called havening, where you just basically cross over, start at your shoulders, and drag down the arms like you're just smoothing the energy and, giving yourself like a little bit of a hug or a hold, right? And so this helps to just dial down the initial shock of the event. And then there's another hold where you just hold the front of the forehead and determine where it is in your body that you're feeling that sensation, the shock, the sadness or grief of the event. And then usually it's at the heart. And then you would place the other hand at the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And then just take some nice deep breaths and feel into your body.
So
And then that would calm the shock of the event and clear it out. And sometimes, there's more to it. There can be a lot more to it than that. Just some meditation, you know.
So where does the tapping come in?
So the tapping, after you do these initial holds or energy interventions, we would start tapping. Because
so that's kind of like a foundational hold.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Right. And to just bring you back into your body.
Right. Because we tend to disconnect. Yeah.
Right. And then balance the energy as well, because when there's shock, when there's trauma, when there's, an event that just throws us really off balance, our energy can become what's called homolateral. So we're not utilizing the left and right hemispheres of the brain properly, and we don't have access then to those resources provided by each side of the brain. Problem solving, thinking clearly, perspective, that kind of thing. So just crossing over like this helps correct that homolateral tendency.
Now, would you only do this with your arms, or is there a leg?
You can do it with your ankles as well. Like you would cross your ankles, and you can just cross your hands at your heart center. And then you can
I
also
just ask?
Sure.
Sorry to keep interrupting though, but why is crossing over the key to repairing the homolateralness, if that's a word?
That's a good question. I'm not sure I can answer that, thoroughly. But it just, from what I understand, it's like when we cross over the midline of the body, like when people say, oh, just go out for a walk, right? You feel bad, go out for a walk. Well, It's that crossing over of the midline while you're walking that helps kind of get you back into a balanced
Like you
state.
cross your arms, like swing your arms side to side when you're
Right.
walking.
Or marching, sometimes people like just march in place. Yeah. So, yeah, and it's uh I can't remember the name of that technique, but they teach it like in school, like to young kids if they're having
The cross
difficulty with,
crawl, the
yeah,
Donna Eden's cross crawl. I always thought of
exactly.
it as like energy flows in a continuous circle, like the infinity, the number 8. And so
Yep.
when we get too rigid, like nature doesn't make highways, nature makes streams. Like nothing
That's
is
a really
straight.
good point. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah.
So I always encourage people to cross over. And that's our instinct, right? When we feel shock or fear, we cross over. And I always encourage people to do that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
we intuitively, we know what to do.
exactly. And a lot of people think that that is like you know, a, you know, guarded body position, right? But it's just like we're intuitively crossing over the midline to just balance ourselves.
Preserve. Yeah, it is guarded because
Yeah,
we're going into self preservation mode.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
let me.
so
Mhm.
when you're able to get back into that fluid like crossover, left right hemisphere corrected place, you're able to process better. So then the tapping comes in. And so if you're in homolateral and you start tapping right away, you're really not going to get great results.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I never thought about that. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Because the
So it's really
tapping,
important.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Kind of reconnect. Now, what about polarity? We hear this a lot. Like somebody will say, "Oh, their polarity is off," or you muscle test and your arm goes down and it should be strong. Like, does EFT work with the polarity of the body at all?
That's kind of a mystery to me. I took some courses in polarity therapy and I still don't totally understand it. I think it's really about like some really unique flows in the body that, aren't necessarily connected to the acupressure meridians and points.
Hmm.
Maybe they are. I don't know. But
Mhm.
that's not something I'm really well
Let's
versed
ask
in.
Donna Eden that. Let's ask Donna.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's a way to correct it. You know how she flushes out the channels a lot? It's got to be connected to an imbalance and that the polarity is spinning the wrong way or whatever. Okay, so let's say somebody is holding a lot of shock or combined with fear and grief because of recurring pregnancy loss. How much of the emotion of that do you feel is affecting the success or failure of their next pregnancy?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say, what percentage, but it's going to, I mean, it's like one of the things that's really important for um, you know, any like health goal that you have is to have like a solid foundation, right? And um, if we're not in harmony, like if we have disharmonious energies running through our body consistently, it doesn't matter what it is, but if it's consistent, we're going to have a really hard time um, just getting a foothold on anything, um, so it's, I mean, I guess it's hard to say. It's I think the important thing is that we come from a place of just wanting to establish harmony in the body again. And or coherence. Coherence is another way of explaining it, or like, experiencing it, you know. So when there's coherence, everything can work like it should. Like all the natural mechanisms in the body can then operate like they should.
Is coherence the same as homeostasis?
I would say, yeah, I would say it's similar. Yeah, very
Mm-hmm.
similar to homeostasis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm not
So,
sure what coherence, how you're defining coherence.
yeah,
I would assume
yeah,
it's
it's
balance. Mm-hmm.
it's just, experience, like when if you're in a really peaceful place in your life,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And we feel into that. It's like there's a smoothness in our energy.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have shock, or we have trauma, or we have you know unfortunate experiences or news, what happens if we don't process that,
Mm-hmm.
we have like static.
Yeah.
It's staticky energy, and it's like we're not in a place of coherence. And
Right.
so it's really important to discharge that energy.
Mm.
um I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen like an animal in nature, for example. If an animal is attacked or has like, you know, a traumatic experience of some sort, what they do to discharge the energy is they shake like vigorously. It's just a natural response. They shake vigorously as if they're dying. They look like they're dying,
Hmm.
but they're not. And so they know that if they don't discharge that energy, that trauma energy, they're like as good as dead in the wild, because they're not able to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
function with all their instincts.
Discern what's actually danger versus not.
Right,
Interesting.
right.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah,
So, what do
so
you? Can I
go
ask, what
ahead.
do you do for folks that don't know what they're feeling? I mean, we've obviously been working in the field of health and all of this bioelectrical part of health for a long time. But I find a lot of people, they're not sure what they're feeling because there's so many layers on top of the fear, grief.
Mhm,
So, where would you
right.
start with somebody who is just, they don't know, they're just overwhelmed?
Well, again, it's like I would start, like, helping them bring themselves back to their bodies. And being a body worker, it's like I know, it's like having somebody on the table and just doing simple holds or cranial sacral holds is so huge. I mean, it just helps you to feel safe and
Hmm.
reconnected, you know?
Hmm.
So simple holds using
Hmm.
the breath
Hmm. Hmm.
and
Hmm.
just tuning into where your breath is getting stuck in your body. Is it stuck in the solar plexus? And place a hand on the solar plexus and just breathe. And, also just getting that, I mean, when you come back into the heart, it's hard not to know, not to feel what's going on.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, this is a really common hold, just coming back into the heart, maybe one hand on the belly, and just feel into your heart and into your body
Hmm.
and your breath, and just get reconnected to what's really going on. And so usually I start out that way anyway, regardless of what's going on for a
Hmm.
person. I start
Hmm.
by asking them just reconnect, and what's on your heart today.
Right. 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 So it's interesting because we know the entire endocrine system is connected to the chakras, the energetic vortexes in the body. And
Mm-hmm.
we know that the master glands in the head, the hypothalamus, the pineal, and pituitary glands are really, these are the master glands for the entire endocrine system. So, what are your thoughts? I'm just curious about, because I'm thinking about this a lot as it relates to fertility, because so much of us don't feel, we don't want to feel, we don't want to lean into that uncomfortableness unless it's anger, because that's the most accepted, right, in society. And we can be high functioning with a lot of anger, but the grief is scary and it's hard to go into grief, especially when it's connected to loss, recurring loss. And so we kind of live in our heads, right? Because we're an overthinking society. So I just wonder what your thoughts are on how that's actually affecting the glands in the head.
Okay. Well, my understanding is that when we're like in flight or fight, we're, the energy and blood is going to the, emotional centers of the brain, right?
Hmm.
And so when we're able to dial back, the strong emotions, and flight or fight response, the energy and the blood will come back to the forebrain. So, and probably, nourishing you know, the pineal, the pituitary, and all of that, right? So, um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. I'm just curious because, I mean, I see a lot of, obviously, our nervous system is influencing, if not controlling, our endocrine system. So to really restore the endocrine system, we have to affect the nervous system. And it's, we know it's all of these emotions that are out of control that are driving the nervous system, right? So it makes sense that that would be the beginning place for endocrine function. We want to begin in the emotional realm because of how it's influencing the nervous system, right? And so having some really
Mm,
good, easy daily techniques that we can do to work on the emotions, to balance them. There's probably a lot of things we could say about it, embracing them, releasing them, whatever,
mm.
identifying them. I don't know, um, so that we can get our endocrine system back in balance because everybody's got some kind of hormonal imbalance. So then we come down to the throat chakra, which is the thyroid, and this is a huge player in
Right.
fertility, especially recurring pregnancy loss. And everybody's got some kind of, whether it's subclinical or clinical or actually autoimmune issue with their thyroid. And so, what are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, again, it's like creating that coherence in the body or homeostasis, right? So that everything can get back online.
Hmm.
Because I mean, that's really, I mean, for example, with the adrenals, I mean, one of the best things you can do for your adrenals is just rest and allow them to just kind of come back into balance on their own. So, I think that it really is just you know, uh, a consistent, effort to move into the state of like coherence and homeostasis, a consistent effort and just like have that be your default rather than, the exception more often. I used to in my practice, I used to really emphasize a reset. Whatever it looks like. I mean, you can tap, you can meditate, you can rest. Lying horizontal provides you just horizontal provides you with a reset. And
Now,
so
when you're horizontal, if you're scrolling on your screen, is that resting?
no. No.
Darn. Oh.
It could be. Something's better than nothing, right? Um, But yeah,
have
so
to be able to unplug from the devices.
yeah, and just like give your eyes a rest, placing your
Oh,
hands just over your eyes.
oh my
But
gosh, yes.
yeah, but I mean, honestly, it's like what is our default? Is our default like, oh, I get a little bit of a rest? Oh, that's cool. I'll just, go back to zooming through life. Yeah, I mean, zooming is your default, really. So it's like consistently working towards like that place of coherence or harmony, so that is your default and you're approaching, life from a more like coherent or harmonious or homeostatic state, right?
Mhm,
So then everything has a chance to operate like it should
mhm,
and just come back into balance like really quick too. And that's, I mean, another aspect of the work that I do is like um, installing new beliefs, installing new programs, installing new goals for yourself that are just going to help you achieve what it is that you're wanting to achieve, right? Whether it's
mhm,
your health or, fitness goals or, abundance, more abundance. And so when we can install those beliefs and programs for ourselves and get our bodies online, or aligned with that on a regular basis, we're going to have more success. We're going to have greater success. And if we're not in a place of homeostasis or coherence, it's like it's harder for our bodies to like get those messages and integrate them.
mhm.
So
Exactly.
well, yeah, it's really important. Or, I mean, people talk about the 0 point field, right? Like
Mhm,
getting into 0 point and meditation. When you get into 0 point, it's like you can just, you're more receptive. And so
mhm,
installing those new programs, installing those new goals, what
mhm,
have you, they're going to be better received by the body.
mhm,
And,
mhm,
and then you can get into like all the multitude of possibilities, for
mhm,
whatever,
mhm,
fertility, health, um, going after those big goals or big dreams.
mhm, mhm, definitely. So, what would you say? Because I know we're about to wrap up here. Would be, let's say somebody's working on their fertility, they're preparing for IVF transfer, and they have a lot of emotions, fear, anger, whatever, negative emotions. What would you recommend that they start doing right away that they could do daily?
So yeah, I would recommend just a tapping practice, a simple tapping practice with the main tapping points. And you don't really have to tap for that long. You can tap for 5 minutes and get results.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would recommend installing, for yourself. I know that's kind of a weird word, isn't it? Installing.
I kind of like it.
Sounds a little
I like it. It just
a little
seems like doable. We can all install something, hopefully. I mean, I like that. It's not
right.
like achieving, it's like, we'll just hire an installer and it's going to happen.
It's
Not that
like
we can outsource our emotional freedom, but we could try.
right, right. Yeah, so it's like dialing down those like, those energies that are like right on the surface for starters, and really aligning with what it is that you're wanting to experience. So if you're wanting to experience your body's ability to conceive with ease, right? So create a little mantra, you know, I now choose to experience my body or experience, easy conception, um, or whatever comes to you, like and even like you've got like a baseline. You've got a baseline. Yeah, I want to conceive, right?
Mm-hmm.
How about, we conceive with ease, or how about we conceive within 2 months time,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes beautifully. And so, you know, um, you notch it up a little bit is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I would start there, just a simple, easy tapping practice.
So you
And
start
then
with the mantra, and then would you begin with this, the body hug, the
yeah,
smooth
I
it
would
out?
I would begin with making sure that your energies are like balanced, crossed over, left and right
Okay.
hemispheres of the brain. Or you can also do what are called lazy eights, where you visualize an eight. You go around your eyes and you just visualize like a point of light. And this is really great. This is a great exercise. You engage the eyes as well. So you move your eyes with the point of light.
Hmm.
It helps kick out all of the chatter, just
Mm-hmm.
the monkey mind or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Okay.
so that's another good way to kick out all those, you know, crazy thoughts and get your left and right hemispheres back
Okay.
together, working together. So then that, and then, checking in at the heart is really good. Just, okay, what's on my heart today?
Mm-hmm.
And then tapping on whatever it is that's feeling heavy on your heart. Like whatever's got you, just a little too ramped up or feeling heavy or stuck or grief or
Okay.
whatever. And it doesn't need, with tapping, this is one thing that's really important to know. There's the whole setup statement. I don't, with people who understand, no tapping, EFT. There's this whole setup statement, and almost a fixation on getting the words right for your setup statement. You don't really need to do that. It's helpful, but the main thing is that what it is that is like got you stressed or feeling sad, and then you just tap through the points on that.
Okay.
So keeping it really, really easy, I think, is
Okay.
really important, because otherwise it's like
Where do you recommend that people find the points, the tapping series?
um well, EFT Universe is one site. I don't have a chart on my site, but I do have a site.
So they can
um
Google it. Because I think you referred
yeah,
me to this app, which actually I have
yeah,
used. It's the self help, the peaceful heart, self help for trauma. That
yeah,
self help,
the Peaceful Heart Network.
peaceful heart network. Yes.
Yeah,
There's an
or
app and it's free, peaceful heart, and it's self help for trauma. And they really go through the points. It's easy, great graphics.
yeah. I love them because again, they make it simple. It's like you don't need to, know all the right words. You just
Right.
tap on the points, and
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and you breathe. Breathing is like emphasized. Yeah. Yeah. And then the Ortners, they have an app as well. I think it's called the Tapping Solution.
Okay. Ortner's tapping solution.
Yeah.
Okay. It's great that all of this is available for folks. So much of it is free. These are great techniques for people to start working on
Yeah.
the bioelectrical part of their being, which again is fueled by the emotion, which a lot of it is trapped in the subconscious mind. And we know that's where a lot of our problems begin and end. So the more we can start working on that level, the better
Mhm.
off we're going to be able to just get back to coherence and I think most folks don't even know that they are incoherent. It's like this normal state of fight or flight. And so to
Yeah.
really start unwinding the nervous system, here's what I would say. If you cannot have acupuncture without being on your phone, then you are in a non-coherent state. No, seriously, you have to be able to, and a lot of people struggle with this, the
Yeah.
being able to relax when there's no entertainment. And we're constantly
Mhm.
bombarded, right, with entertainment outside of us. And if they just took a moment and they'd see their very own mind is very entertaining if you can observe it. So that would be one symptom of incoherence. It's hard to get through that
Yeah.
20 minutes without some entertainment. So if
Mhm.
that's you, then start doing these techniques, breathing, connecting, tapping, and see what comes up, right? See what emerges from that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, to sit with yourself, right?
I think it's the hardest thing I've ever done. I mean, I'd rather be the hummingbird zipping around. I think most
Right.
people would. Yeah.
Right, and yeah, and discharging those energies or unwinding those energies, like you're saying,
Yeah.
that'll help you to be able to just get calm and sit with yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. And I think the
Yeah.
more people can realize the benefit of that, how that is how we restore the endocrine system, then
Mhm.
they'll be more motivated and say, okay, now this makes sense. I have to get through these uncomfortable times because this is what my hypothalamus wants. This is what my thyroid wants. By the time you go from subclinical thyroid to hyperthyroid to Hashimoto's, it means that you ignored the subtler symptoms of your
Mhm.
thyroid is trying to talk to you and you ignore. And then
Right.
it's like, okay, I'm not going to be just subclinical anymore. I'm going to be hypo. And we're like, yeah, whatever. We don't care. And then it's like, okay, you're going to ignore me now, the one of the most important glands in your whole system. Now we are going to attack you. And then
Mhm.
suddenly you've got Hashimoto's, don't know why.
Mhm.
So you got to think to yourself, well, maybe there is a cause to some of this. And maybe it did begin in my mind, which is my emotions. And maybe I did ignore the subtler symptoms. And now we're in this extreme situation that's harder to bring the body back.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's my thing is trying to understand the cause so we can affect the cure to make a change that lasts because you don't want to be passing this on while you're pregnant. I think in Chinese medicine they say you can actually make great changes in the body. It's the only time you have 4 kidneys, 4 lungs, 2 hearts, so you
Wow.
actually can make
Right.
changes during gestation. You can utilize each other to really improve, and you don't want to pass a lot of this down. And so we know through the work of Bruce Lipton, all of this stuff, the genes may be there, but what turns it on is thoughts, beliefs, toxins, whatever, viruses. So it's not,
Right.
you don't assume anything is going to be genetically passed on. So especially if while you're pregnant, you're aware of this and say, okay, I'm going to start changing this now because I don't want my daughter to have
Mhm.
Hashimoto's thyroiditis, or whatever,
Right.
or have the
Right.
same
Yeah, you
challenges.
wanna
Yeah.
create an environment for the fetus to really, um, be able to affect their own well-being and healing,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, it's really important. And, it's like if you are working on, conceiving, it's like those I think thinking about that, it's like what kind of environment are you wanting for your unborn child? It's like so, working on your emotions and getting back to coherence is, a worthy endeavor for sure
Oh,
because you're gonna
definitely. You don't want a
create.
baby born into fight or flight because the first year is going to
Yeah,
be very challenging. Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely. There's so much we could talk about. This is a very rich subject. Thank you so much Lynn, for sharing your time and expertise today. What's the best way
My
for folks to get in touch with you?
So my email is info@lovemyhealingjourney.com. My website is lovemyhealingjourney.com.
Nice. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much. We will love our healing journey as much as we possibly can.
Okay. Right. Thank you. It was
you.
lovely being here with you, Jennifer.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Bye.